I asked the universe for a location to film any dinner. So, is it time to film the next video? All right, well, what's it about? Today's video, just in case you're sold on living in your car, if you're ready to adopt this lifestyle tomorrow, I want to provide a few tips, pointers, warnings of things to do before you do that. If you haven't watched the rest of the videos in the series, see you in approximately 40 minutes. It is a momentous occasion. Tonight, we're gonna cook for the first time since this all started. By cook, I do mean put a very minimal amount of effort into heating something up. This video is targeted towards people who are interested in a nomadic lifestyle, but it can also be used if you're doing a standard move and you want to just give yourself a little bit of breathing room. The idea is most of these things are postage or address dependent, so they're things to keep an eye on when you are moving in general. I'm quite proud of myself. I did actually complete most of these things. I was impressively proactive, or you might say, and flow with the universe, or you might say neurotic. Take your pick. I take it all. There were some things that I forgot too, so I'm right there with you. No shame, no sadness. I'll tell you all the things I did wrong as well. If you're a B-roll slut, if you live for the B-roll, I do apologize. There's not going to be a ton of that in this video. A lot of this is going to be governmental forms that you should fill out, other types of official records you should create. I could understand if that doesn't sound super exciting to you, but maybe you get so much anxiety from filling in forms that you'll just be left on the edge of your seat, and that will be really thrilling. I'll both be providing standard information about the process that you're going to go through, as well as what my experience of the process was, my rationale, and how I navigated that, and also tried to alleviate as much stress, confusion, frustration as possible. Hopefully you'll be able to go into your own process with a little bit more confidence and ease. But also, unfortunately, I did kind of black out while I was doing all of these things, so some of the information might not be fully accurate. Trust me that these processes are best done when you still have a typical mailing address. Take my advice as the planting of the seed to do it, but make sure you do it correctly and not based on what I tell you. Wow, I feel like I would make a great parent. Just listen to the very first thing I say and nothing else. Okay. Any car work, whatever your vehicle is, whatever your main resource, make sure it gets a tune-up. So maybe it's a bike, maybe it's just your backpacky backpack. Whatever it is, make sure it's in tip-top shape. For me, I make sure all the fluids were as filled as they could be. Another thing I did was that like buff stuff for the headlights. That is really impressive. I didn't get an oil change. I had to do that later, but that's also something to consider. Tire rotation, all the other basic maintenance tasks. I re-registered my car. This is going to be very dependent on the state that you live in. Safe to say, at least in Illinois, you don't have to have gotten the mailing in order to do it. All I had to do was get an emissions test and then pay for the registration update. The plus side of this is I don't have to change my address and my plates will be valid for another year. I mean, I know that when I moved from New York, there was this whole drama with my insurance company and my license plates got revoked randomly one day. So that might happen. There might be a stress update video at some point, but as far as I know, they're valid. And it's a good thing that I did it before I left the state. Turn on your stove. You're gonna wanna mix it appropriately. It'll become the consistency of approximately this. Yummy. Hopefully that hasn't gone bad. I didn't register to vote. Okay, so yes, I'm a terrible citizen. But also, it's not my fault it's so difficult to vote. Certain countries, it's hard to not vote, and here it is very hard to vote. But I just tried to do this today, and it seems like you can actually do that online. It seemed like a pretty straightforward process. I just submitted my old mailing address, so we're gonna see how it shakes out. What I'm hoping is gonna happen is my mail forwarding service acts like a commercial address, that any of my proofs of residency, etc., will just revert to my residential address. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I guess I'll have to post an update video of this and subscribe. Filing for global entry. This might not be relevant for everyone if you don't travel a ton, but if you are intending to travel internationally, I would highly recommend that you do it while you still have a permanent address. I assume somewhere there's some dossier DSM binder that has begun to get flagged that's like, oh, she's adopting an alternative lifestyle. She might run drugs one day. So, this is the best time to get all of your pre-approvals from the government. What you need for global entry is some sort of photo ID, an additional proof of identity. When you do global entry, in general, it is all biometric, but there is this card that they mail to you for crossing the Canada and the Mexico borders. And so you will want to have a place that you can receive that. And then there's also a fee. In general, I would say this process was extremely painless. I was kind of worried when they were like, there's going to be an interview. And I was like, oh, are you going to ask me my occupation? Are you going to ask me personal questions about my future? Because it's pretty uncertain. It ended up just being me and this guy in a windowless room, like shooting the shit about his windows. So he was very sarcastic. It's actually pretty refreshing. That's so spicy. Oh my God. One last tip. If you do it at an airport and you pay for parking, always pay at the machine that's closest to where you're exiting from. That way you pay for the least amount of time versus if you go walk and get in your car and then drive your car to the pay machine and then pay, or even drive to the exit and pay, you get to cut that time off of what you owe. I'm changing direction. That makes videos interesting, right? Have a plan, a storage and utilization plan for any of your important papers. Are you going to bring them with you? Are you going to store them? Are you going to leave them with a trusted individual? And what are the implications of that? For example, passport, birth certificate, social security card, any titles and deeds, any other proof of valuables or other possessions. Just make sure you have a plan for that. If you're going to do any international traveling, obviously you'll want your passport. I would say always err on the side of having it with you. It is scary to think if it gets lost or stolen, but also it's hard to generate those things quickly when you need them. Use your discernment. Don't listen to me, just listen to your discernment. Administratively, make sure that you download and have easy access to all these types of documentations. Pay stubs, proofs of employment, any important contacts, any proof of residency, utility bills, renter's insurance policies, things that might be stopping or canceled. For example, in the town that I had been living in, there are special discounts if you're a resident. So maintaining those proofs so that I could still get the resident discounts even if I technically wasn't living in a traditional way there. Also could be worth doing if you are in other local areas. I have considered, I haven't done this, but adopting local addresses. So for example, I use a lot of rec centers and there usually is a discount if you're a resident. Since I'm not actually going to be living there, I could just provide an address that I know that exists. You can tap into the level of anarchy and chaos that you want to commit to, but that is an option. Dinner time. Okay, that's really hot. I'm gonna wait for that to cool down. Oh, there's a bowl. Yeah, I'm not gonna use that. Setting up your mail forwarding. This one there's gonna be the most detail about because it is probably the most complicated process. If you are adopting a nomadic lifestyle, you have two options. You can either revert to an address of a family member, another close friend that you wanna use as your residence, or you can have a mail service. I opted for a mail service. I wanted that immediate visibility. I didn't wanna always have to rely on family and friends to maintain my mail. I also thought I was moving to a state and I was gonna be working my way towards residency there, so I wanted to have an address in that state. Kind of. I'll tell you the story of me applying for my address and you can judge me for that. There's a variety of different services. As far as I could tell, they're all pretty much the same. They have fees that relate to holding the mailbox in general, the number of pieces of mail that they'll receive for you, the types of things that they'll do with the mail. So they might scan it and send you copies of scans. Bulk collect pieces of mail that you want and then send those to another address. Honestly, I found all of the different numbers and trying to make any kind of reasonable comparison overwhelming, and so I tried to tap into my intuition, go with the one that seemed the most straightforward and easy process, and also like it had the most options. Recognize whether or not you're trying to establish residency somewhere or establish other official documentation at the address, because then you do want to be sensitive to whatever state, whatever laws the state has, other voting, tax implications there might be. I know some of the different services don't guarantee that you can use the address for establishing residency, except there's a South Dakota associated one where they actually do help you apply for residency. So if it's very important to you that you change your residency, then I would recommend going that route. I didn't really care. I ended up going with iPostal One really for no reason. I'm not going to advise that you use them because I haven't used any other service, but it does seem actually quite fine. It's really fast and easy. I have actually been impressed by their customer service. I always get responses very quickly. And even where I ended up collecting the mail, it was a very straightforward process. They're very helpful and responsive. So maybe I do recommend them. I don't know. What you will have to do is you have to fill out the form 1583. You'll have to provide a photo ID and then a proof of residency. And so that's where you'll want to still have that one base address and then documentation associated with that address. You can provide a lease, you can provide a mortgage. In my case, I provided renter's insurance policy. You want to make sure that that documentation is still relatively live. So what was also nice about iPostal 1 is the process of filling in the 1583. It is a federal form and it has to be notarized. I find finding a notary one of my greatest fears in life. iPostal 1 actually automatically links you to a virtual notary public. So I'll get to why I had to do this twice in a minute, but it was so simple and easy that I could do it twice, haha. The first time that I did it, it was the night before I left for Europe, and so I was naked and in bed, and you can get things notarized still that way. I found clothes. And then the second time I was at a park, so you can really get notarized anywhere. I don't think they want me to have said that online. Okay, so I guess I should explain what happened. The first time I did this, I was trying to be super intuitive and I was like, oh, where do I want my mail to go? I knew I was going to be very nomadic. I was like, well, it doesn't really matter what state it's in. Like, let me just feel into it, / also compare the prices and range of options for the different mailboxes. So at least for iPostal 1, different mail sites will do different functions. I knew I wanted one that was in the cheapest range, which is like $9.99 a month, that does international as well as domestic packages and letters. So I just wanted to have all my bases covered. I also just wanted to like my address, which is kind of ridiculous because it doesn't really matter. What happened was I picked an address in Texas. Then as my plans developed, I realized I was going to go to Colorado. I wanted to be able to physically pick up my mail. And so I was like, well, okay, fuck, then I need to set one up in Colorado. So I had to do it a second time. There were some learnings that came from that. What I learned, I tried to do my mail forwarding from the Texas one to the Colorado one. It does turn out, because of the way that these are structured, they don't do traditional mail forwarding through USPS. So that's just something to keep in mind. Also, be really sensitive to any orders that you're making. So I had this whole drama with the USPS because, of course, I had ordered something on Etsy. I ordered it when it really shouldn't have mattered, way before I was actually going to be moved. But those things take a million years to come in the mail. By the time it was coming, I had already set up my mail forwarding. It turns out, even though USPS doesn't forward packages, they'll just return to sender. And I was like, I've been waiting around in the town that I had been living in just to pick up this package, and you just returned it to sender. Luckily, the person on Etsy was super kind and changed my address, and then I finally got my package. Also, be really careful with any auto renew subscriptions. I have a pros subscription, like the hair stuff, and that renewed and started to get sent to my address, also by USPS, but then that also got stopped. Also, if there is something that you want to order, do that. I have to buy everything in stores now, or I have to get it shipped to stores because I don't know where I'm going to be to get packages delivered. If there are things that you have to mail order a bunch before your mailing address becomes uncertain. The last thing that you might consider doing before leaving is making a plan. I didn't do that. That's not really part of this process for me, but it certainly could be for you, and I invite you into whatever form of safety and security that will grant you. If you have any other questions about things that I considered or things that I ran into as I was moving out of my apartment and into my car, please feel free to leave a comment. I think we're gonna take a break from this like advicey stuff and do some more life updates in the next couple of videos. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I'll see you soon.